The exact same science used to protect human astronauts from deep space radiation is, it's now being scooped into vegan, bacon-flavored dog bowls.
Yeah, it sounds completely absurd, I know.
Right. And if that sounds like pure science fiction, I mean, just consider where you might find yourself later tonight. You're standing in the pet store aisle, or maybe you're just scrolling online at midnight staring at this endless wall of supplements.
Oh, the midnight scrolling is real.
It really is. You see all these colorful labels, massive price tags, and claims that sound completely divorced from reality. You are the kind of perpetually curious learner we love having on the deep dive, but even for the most informed pet parent, that aisle is just a total nightmare to navigate.
It's a nightmare because the stakes feel incredibly high, you know? You just want to do right by your animal. But it's this multi-billion-dollar market filled with an overwhelming amount of noise. And honestly, marketing often just completely drowns out the actual biology.
Which is exactly why we're here. Today, our mission is to cut through that noise. We are working through a really fascinating stack of sources to uncover the genuine science-backed shift happening in pet care.
Right, we've got some great material today.
We really do. We have a comprehensive veterinary guide titled Nutraceuticals versus Pharmaceuticals for Pets. We're also analyzing some branding materials and product sheets for a company called A+ Naturals, which, by the way, is what brings us back to that vegan, bacon-flavored immunity blend.
Yep, the astronaut science.
Exactly. And we are capping it all off with an anti-inflammatory pet cookbook called Possum Plates.
And, what all these materials collectively point to is a massive paradigm shift in veterinary medicine. We are seeing this structural move away from purely reactive care, like waiting until an animal is limping or visibly ill, toward proactive preventative wellness.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand how we can help our pets age with vitality, rather than just managing their decline, we first have to clarify the vocabulary.
The terminology is definitely crucial here.
Right, like we have to understand the fundamental difference between a pharmaceutical and a nutraceutical, and why veterinarians are suddenly embracing the latter so much.
Yeah, so the word nutraceutical, it was actually coined back in 1989 by a Dr. Stephen DeFelice.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, late 80s. The medical community at the time basically needed a bridge between standard nutrition and targeted medicine. So it's a portmanteau of nutrition and pharmaceutical.
Got it.
Structurally, it just refers to a food-derived substance that provides physiological benefits or protection against chronic disease. So it goes far beyond just, basic caloric or nutritional value.
Right, so if we want to visualize how these two approaches function biochemically, think of it like this. Pharmaceuticals are your fire extinguisher. They are powerful, they are precise, and if your house is actively on fire, say your dog has a severe bacterial infection, you absolutely want the fire extinguisher.
Yes, exactly. You need those targeted antibiotics to put out the flames immediately.
Right. But a fire extinguisher is a harsh intervention. I mean, it leaves a mess of chemical foam everywhere. Nutraceuticals, on the other hand, they're like fireproofing the house.
That's a great way to look at it.
You're upgrading the wiring, you're installing flame-retardant drywall, and building up the gut microbiome and cellular health gradually, day by day. And that prevents the fire from ever igniting in the first place.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason this whole fireproofing approach is gaining such incredible traction really comes down to a collision of demographics and longevity.
How so?
Well, thanks to advances in baseline veterinary care, pets are just living significantly longer. Like a Labrador retriever that might have been considered very old at 10 a few decades ago. That same dog is now routinely living to 13 or 14.
And obviously, we all want those extra years.
Of course we do. But those extended lifespans bring complex, age-related biological challenges. The sources detail a huge rise in joint degeneration, chronic inflammation, and cognitive decline.
And simultaneously, millennials have become the largest pet-owning demographic. The data in our sources shows this group is actively demanding plant-based preventative care. Like, they do not want to wait for the cartilage to degrade before taking action.
Yeah, they want to be proactive. And when we look at the clinical literature in the veterinary guide, the mechanisms driving this preventative care are incredibly specific.
Give us an example.
Take omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. These are not just generic healthy fats. At a cellular level, DHA physically incorporates into the phospholipid bilayer of brain cell membranes.
Oh, wow. So it actually becomes part of the brain's structure.
Exactly. It keeps those membranes fluid and permeable, which allows neurotransmitters to fire effectively. So it's directly combating cognitive decline. And meanwhile, Meanwhile, the EPA actively disrupts the body's inflammatory cascade, basically reducing the markers that cause joint pain.
That's fascinating. We also see glucosamine and chondroitin being utilized completely differently than they used to be, right?
Oh, entirely differently.
Because glucosamine provides the raw biochemical building blocks to synthesize new cartilage. And then chondroitin acts like a molecular magnet for water, drawing hydration into the cartilage matrix to keep it elastic and, shock absorbing.
Yeah, and the key shift is that veterinarians are no longer waiting for a large breed dog to develop a limp. They are introducing these compounds preventatively, often in early adulthood, to maintain structural integrity long before the wear and tear takes its toll.
Right, get ahead of it.
Exactly. And then there is the profound impact of probiotics on the gut-brain axis. This is where the science gets particularly elegant, honestly.
Oh, I love the gut-brain axis stuff.
It's amazing. The gut microbiome is essentially a bioreactor. Certain beneficial bacteria synthesize neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine right there in the stomach.
And then those travel up to the brain.
Yep, they travel up the vagus nerve, which acts as this bidirectional information highway connecting the gut directly to the brain. By balancing those bacterial populations, veterinarians are seeing measurable reductions in stress behaviors and separation anxiety.
Just from altering the gut bacteria.
Just from that, yeah. Because they are fundamentally altering the neurochemical signals originating in the gut.
But I do want to push back on this, though. I mean, we are talking about deep biochemical changes, but the term nutraceutical still sounds suspiciously like a trendy rebranding of a daily multivitamin.
I hear that a lot, actually.
Like if I can go to the grocery store and buy a cheap multivitamin that covers the nutritional bases, is there actually a fundamental difference in how these specific compounds shift the body's environment?
That is the critical distinction to make right there. A standard multivitamin is formulated solely to prevent baseline nutrient deficiency.
Like keeping you from getting a disease.
Right. It provides the bare minimum required to stop the biological engine from stalling out, preventing scurvy, essentially. But a clinical nutraceutical is dosed to actively change the biochemical environment.
Okay, I see.
But it achieves this through a gradual systemic shift, typically requiring a 60 to 90-day saturation period. It is slowly providing the raw materials for cellular repair and modulating immune responses over time.
Whereas the pharmaceutical acts as a brute force intervention.
Exactly the mechanism. A pharmaceutical typically operates by forcefully blocking a specific cellular receptor, or, rapidly suppressing an immune response or lysing the cell walls of a pathogen.
And that rapid, targeted forcefulness is why pharmaceuticals carry such heavy side effects, right?
Spot on. They disrupt the body's homeostasis, they cause gastrointestinal upset, and they require the liver and kidneys to work overtime to metabolize those synthetic chemical structures.
And nutraceuticals avoid that.
Yeah, because nutraceuticals are recognized by the body as food-derived complexes, they integrate into existing metabolic pathways with a significantly lower risk profile.
Well, that makes biological sense, but if nutraceuticals are genuinely this capable of altering a pet's biochemistry and their health span, it begs the question, why aren't they regulated with the same stringency as drugs?
Oh, the regulation, yeah.
Because the sources outline this massive regulatory gray zone that basically leaves the consumer navigating the absolute wild west of pet supplements.
It really is a wild west.
Yeah.
It is a systemic regulatory gap. In the U.S., nutraceuticals are not subjected to the FDA's rigorous pre-market drug approval process, which requires multi-phase clinical trials to prove efficacy.
Right.
They are not classified as drugs, but they also fall outside the simple categorization of basic food. Because of this, the entire burden of safety, purity, and efficacy falls squarely on the manufacturer.
And that is scary when you're standing in that aisle. But our guide outlines a very specific set of red flags and green flags to protect yourself.
Yes, a very helpful framework.
Let's look at the red flags first. If a label uses miracle cure language, if it claims to, like cure your dog's arthritis, or treat a specific disease that is technically an illegal drug claim.
Exactly.
Under current regulations, a supplement can only claim to support or maintain normal function. If they are breaking that basic legal rule, you cannot trust what is inside the bottle.
The most pervasive red flag, however, is definitely the proprietary blend.
Oh, these are just infuriating. The label will list 5 incredible, scientifically validated ingredients, but then they group them under a single, opaque milligram count.
It's so misleading. It allows for a deceptive manufacturing practice known as dusting.
Dusting.
Yeah, a company will include a microscopic, subtherapeutic dose of a trendy, expensive ingredient, say like 1 milligram of curcumin when the clinical literature requires 500 milligrams to actually trigger an anti-inflammatory
So
response.
it's basically useless.
Completely biologically useless at that concentration. But its presence allows the company to feature it prominently on the marketing materials. If a brand lacks ingredient transparency and cannot provide third-party testing to verify their concentrations, it is best avoided.
And dirt cheap prices are almost always an indicator of that subtherapeutic dosing, right?
Almost always, yes.
But the green flags give us a clear roadmap. You want to look for GMP certification, which stands for Good Manufacturing Practices, guaranteeing a clean and controlled production environment.
Absolutely.
You also want the NASC seal, the National Animal Supplement Council, which indicates adherence to strict quality control standards. And most importantly, you are looking for companies that publish peer-reviewed research and actively collaborate with veterinary professionals.
That veterinary collaboration is paramount. The veterinary guide emphasizes that you really must actively partner with your vet on this.
Because they can interact with other drugs.
Precisely. You have to bring a comprehensive list of any supplements you are administering. Because nutraceuticals alter biochemistry, they can interact with prescription medications.
What's an example of that?
Well, for example, certain plant-derived compounds can inhibit cytochrome P450 enzymes in the liver.
Okay.
If your pet is on a pharmaceutical heart medication that relies on those exact enzymes for metabolization, the supplement could actually cause the drug to build up to toxic levels in the bloodstream.
Oh, wow. So it's not just harmless plants. You really need to talk to your vet. You also need to tailor the conversation to your pet's specific life stage, right?
Yes, definitely.
Because the immune and skeletal infrastructure a puppy is building requires vastly different biochemical support than a senior dog fighting accumulated cellular damage.
Exactly.
And the sources offer a vital piece of advice here. If your primary veterinarian dismisses the entire concept of nutraceuticals out of hand without engaging with the literature, you should seek a second opinion from an integrative veterinarian.
Yeah, don't be afraid to do that.
The science is evolving rapidly, and you need a practitioner who is aggressively keeping pace.
This raises an important question, though. In an entirely unregulated market, where literally any company can wrap a subpar proprietary blend in beautiful packaging, how does a brand definitively prove its clinical worth?
Right. And the best way to identify a genuine green flag operation is to examine the specific case study highlighted in our sources.
A+ Naturals.
Yes. The materials for A+ Naturals show a company that bypassed standard pet industry practices entirely and utilized literal rocket science.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The brand was founded in 2014 by Helena van der Merwe, who is a pharmaceutical expert.
Not a pet food executive.
Exactly. The origin story detailed in the sources explains that she was a researcher who co-authored a space radiation study at the NASA Space Radiation Facility in Brookhaven.
So her research focused on how specific nutraceuticals and immunity blends could biologically protect human astronauts facing extreme physiological and oxidative stress during deep space missions.
Now, I anticipate your skepticism here.
Oh, I am absolutely skeptical. I mean, I see the NASA connection plastered across these branding materials, but isn't it a massive biological leap to go from protecting a human astronaut in zero gravity from galactic cosmic rays to formulating a powder for a golden retriever in a suburban backyard? Like, how does that actually map biologically?
It sounds wild, but the underlying cellular mechanics are surprisingly identical. Yeah. The core issue astronauts face is intense oxidative stress. At a molecular level, oxidative stress occurs when unstable molecules called free radicals, which are basically missing an electron, aggressively steal electrons from healthy cell membranes, proteins, and DNA.
Right, which causes damage.
It creates this cascading chain reaction of cellular damage, often referred to as cellular rust. Space radiation triggers this rust at an exponentially accelerated rate.
Okay, I follow.
However, the natural aging process, environmental toxins, and chronic inflammation that our pets experience right here on Earth trigger the exact same free radical cascade. It just happens over a longer timeline.
So the source materials claim that Helena van der Merwe took this NASA-level understanding of mitigating extreme cellular stress and engineered it specifically for the pet market.
That's the claim, yes.
According to the brand's documentation, she saw an industry completely saturated with weak, biologically ineffective products and formulated the A+ Naturals plant-based immunity blend.
And examining the biochemical breakdown of this immunity blend really reveals the clinical intent behind the formulation. It is delivered as a powder, which the materials note was a deliberate choice to solve the whole pill fatigue problem many owners struggle with.
And as we mentioned, it is vegan, bacon-flavored, and manufactured in the USA, ensuring compliance and palatability. But the actual ingredient list is what really warrants attention.
Let's break that down.
They utilize prebiotics and probiotics to establish that gut-brain axis foundation we talked about. They include ginger and turmeric. And turmeric provides curcumin, which the literature confirms is a highly potent compound that neutralizes those free radicals and suppresses inflammatory pathways.
But the mechanisms of the medicinal mushrooms, specifically shiitake and reishi, those are the standout feature here.
Because of the beta-glucans.
Exactly. These mushrooms provide complex polysaccharide structures known as beta-glucans. And beta-glucans do not just passively float through the bloodstream.
What do they do?
They structurally bind to specific receptor sites on the surface of macrophages and natural killer cells.
And macrophages are the immune system's cellular garbage collectors, right?
That's a perfect description. By binding to these receptors, the beta-glucans act as a chemical scent trail, essentially priming the macrophages to engage in phagocytosis. The process of physically engulfing and destroying foreign debris, senescent cells, and pathogens, it is highly targeted immunomodulation.
The formulation also relies on larch arabinogalactan and L-lysine to maintain joint matrix health. And the sources actually provide anecdotal evidence of this formulation's real-world impact, which I found interesting.
The story about the cat, right?
Yeah, there is a detailed account of a young cat named Shrimpy, owned by John Millian. Shrimpy was failing to hit developmental milestones and was just suffering from low vitality.
And then they introduced the powder.
Right. According to the case study, after introducing the A+ Naturals blend, the cat's metabolic energy, coat health, and overall vitality improved dramatically.
And returning to our discussion on navigating the unregulated supplement market, the brand materials highlight this massive regulatory moat A+ Naturals, built to legitimize their claims.
They went to Health Canada, didn't they?
They did. They submitted their clinical formulation to Health Canada and successfully earned a Veterinary Health Product, or VHP, notification.
Which is a big deal.
It's huge. This indicates that a federal regulatory body actually reviewed the biochemical safety, the quality control, and the scientific rationale and formally validated it.
They also secured U.S. copyright approval for the proprietary formulation, which prevents generic competitors from just reverse engineering the exact ratios. They are actively demonstrating what a transparent, scientifically rigorous nutraceutical company looks like.
However, a powder supplement, even one rooted in space radiation research, remains exactly that. It's a supplement.
Right, it's supplement.
It is designed to supplement a baseline. And the overarching consensus across all our sources today is that you simply cannot out-supplement a highly inflammatory daily diet.
So true.
If the goal is to neutralize chronic inflammation, which is the silent underlying driver of almost all degenerative disease in pets, the intervention has to start in the food bowl.
Which explains why A+ Naturals expanded beyond just the powder. They actually published an anti-inflammatory pet cookbook called Possum Plates to overhaul the biological foundation.
The underlying philosophy of the cookbook is that the whole foods your pet consumes every single day set the baseline levels of systemic inflammation. The meals are the architecture. The immunity blend is simply the reinforcement designed to fill specific micronutrient gaps.
Now, there's a massive bolded warning in this cookbook that you absolutely need to adhere to if you are incorporating these protocols.
Very important warning.
The immunity blend powder must be administered once a day, added to one main meal only, strictly based on the animal's weight.
Right.
The dosage is highly specific. That's 23 of a scoop for small dogs, 13 of a scoop for cats. But the crucial, absolute, non-negotiable rule is this: do not cook or bake with the supplement.
The biochemistry behind that warning is actually really simple. Heat degrades complex biological compounds.
It destroys them.
Yes. When you expose proteins and polysaccharides to high temperatures, you denature them.
Yeah.
You break apart the 3D molecular structures that make them functional.
And what about the probiotics?
More importantly, high heat literally bursts the cell walls of the living probiotic cultures. So if you bake that meticulously formulated powder into a hot dog biscuit, you are rendering the active ingredients completely biologically inert.
Wow. So the powder must be mixed into the food only at the time of serving.
Only at the time of serving, yeah.
And when you look at the actual recipes in Possum Plates, they are a far cry from, just boiling plain chicken and rice. They detail specific functional whole foods, Let's break down the mechanics of this menu.
Please do.
Okay, so they feature a salmon and sweet potato mash. You are utilizing wild-caught salmon, which provides massive bioavailable doses of those EPA and DHA omega-3s we discussed earlier.
Excellent for the brain and joints.
Exactly. You mix it with sweet potato, cooked quinoa, and a very specific addition, coconut oil.
The inclusion of coconut oil is entirely functional here. It provides medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs.
And those act differently than normal fats, right?
Yeah. Unlike normal dietary fats that require a complex lymphatic transport system, MCTs bypass that entirely. They go straight to the liver, providing rapid, highly accessible cellular energy while simultaneously supporting the lipid barrier of the dog's skin and coat.
They also have a turkey and brown rice bowl. You utilize ground turkey for lean amino acids, brown rice for fibrous complex carbohydrates to stabilize blood sugar, mixed vegetables, and actual turmeric powder integrated directly into the meal to establish a baseline anti-inflammatory environment.
They even program clinical utility into the breakfast and snack options, which I loved.
Yes, the blueberry breakfast oatmeal. You combine rolled oats, unsweetened applesauce, and blueberries.
Blueberries are amazing for this.
They really are. They're dense with anthocyanins, specific antioxidants that the clinical literature shows can actually cross the blood-brain barrier to neutralize free radicals directly in the brain tissue. It directly supports cognitive function.
Incredible.
Or consider the green smoothie topper. You blend spinach or kale, which provides vital plant-based iron and calcium, with plain Greek yogurt to deliver a natural whole food probiotic boost before the supplement is even added.
What's fascinating here is how identically this protocol mirrors the cutting-edge longevity advice currently sweeping human medicine.
Oh, for sure. It's the exact same advice.
We are seeing a massive push toward whole foods, the aggressive reduction of highly processed ingredients, and this hyper-focus on healthy fats, antioxidant pathways, and microbiome diversity. This approach is ultimately about empowering the pet parent.
Taking control of it.
Right. It shifts you from passively opening a can of extruded, ultra-processed kibble every day to actively engineering your pet's biological resilience.
So what does this all mean? When we step back and synthesize this entire stack of sources, you have the veterinary diagnostic guides, the translation of NASA oxidative stress research, the functional home-cooked meals. The defining takeaway is that the future of veterinary wellness is not about discarding pharmaceuticals.
Not at all.
If your dog suffers an acute trauma or a severe infection, you absolutely want the heavy artillery.
You want the fire extinguisher.
Exactly. But the future is about architecting a lifestyle where you require that heavy artillery far less frequently.
It is a complete paradigm shift from reactive treatment to proactive optimization.
It is about merging targeted, highly validated scientific compounds with a whole food anti-inflammatory foundation to basically buy our pets more good years. We are not just extending their timeline, we are preserving their structural and cognitive vitality within the time they have.
And honestly, synthesizing all of this research leaves me with a thought that extends well beyond the pet aisle.
Oh, what's that?
We are clearly willing to go to extraordinary lengths for the animals we love. I mean, we are scrutinizing space radiation studies, we are actively managing their microbiome diversity, and we are home cooking anti-inflammatory salmon mashes simply to optimize their health span.
That's true, we do a lot.
It raises a rather profound question, though. Are you applying that exact same level of preventative science-backed rigor to your own longevity?
That is a brilliant point to end on. Because if this level of cellular defense and nutritional biochemistry is the new standard for Shrimpy the cat, well, we should probably be taking a much harder look at what is on our own plates. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the evolving science of pet wellness. Go give your pets a hug, start interrogating those supplement labels, and we will catch you on the next one.